Greetings and welcome to Mental Health Trailblazers, Psychiatric Nurses Speak Up. I am your host, Indrias Kassaye, and you are listening to Season 2 of the SAMHSA Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association's podcast, where we spotlight MFP fellows and alumni and their pioneering work to improve health outcomes for marginalized communities. We have so much to explore, so let's get started. Greetings, April, and welcome to Mental Health Trailblazers. Thank you for joining us today. Let me begin by asking you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, my name is April Ames-Chase, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me to the Minority Fellowship Program Trailblazers podcast.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And I'm curious to hear about your story, about the journey that brought you to the world of nursing.
Well, it started in Baltimore. My mother signed me up unknowingly to be a candy striper when I was around 15 years old. So I worked at a predominantly Black hospital in Baltimore called Provident Hospital. And so that's where I got my first inkling of healthcare and thinking, oh, maybe this is something I should or maybe shouldn't do in the future.
After completing your bachelor's degree in nursing, you immediately joined the U.S. Air Force. Were you planning for a career in the military as you were going through college?
Surprisingly, yes, towards the end of college, I wanted to follow my four brothers who were in the Air Force. So I have a big Air Force family. So 10 months after graduating from Coppin State College in Baltimore, go Coppin, from an HBCU, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant to enter the Air Force.
And how was that experience?
That experience was an experience of a lifetime. I always wanted to travel, and I saw joining the military as a means of traveling. I didn't take into account all the physical rigor of being in the military, but I did great while as an active duty military nurse.
And were you ever in a station or situation where there was active combat?
Good question. While stationed here at Lackland Air Force Base, I was deployed to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And so I was in charge of several medical surgical units and also the infection control nurse for the hospital. That was quite the experience. And that was from 2005 through 2006.
I read an article that you shared describing what a typical day looked like at that hospital. How was it working in Iraq?
Long hours, long, grueling hours, but I can tell you it was the camaraderie of fellow medics that got me through, because we all had one mission in mind, and that was to save every life that we could, no matter how injured they were. Our mission was to save their lives and send them back to the United States as quickly once they were stabilized. And so that's what we did.
Did you ever fear for your own life?
Oh, yes, the whole time I was there. I was stationed at Balad Air Base, which was the largest surgical trauma hospital in Iraq. And they actually called our base Mortareterville, because we were hit with mortars every day.
And how did you get through that, like mentally yourself?
I got through that by journaling. I would journal a lot at night, and that helped to relieve stress. And I had some good friends that I hung out with. They were lab officers and a couple of nurses, and we would go early in the morning and go exercise at the gym. So maintaining our physical health as well as mental health. That was my main way of dealing with the stress.
And what'd you do with that journal?
Well, later I actually had it published, and it's called A Moment in Time. So it was a personal endeavor for me to do that. I wanted to give it as a gift to my family and friends, just so they could know what I experienced. And so.
A Moment in Time. Well, we definitely need to order that and share it with as many people as possible. How would you say that the military experience affected you as a person and as a professional, as a nurse?
As a nurse, when I came back from Iraq, I was a changed person. Okay. When I came back as the nurse manager of the clinic, I saw it as a duty that didn't want to do anymore. I wanted to be able to affect change within individuals and not just be a paper pusher, not do administration. That wasn't my focus anymore. And so when the time came when I was able to retire, I did. I retired and I put my energy towards helping veterans.
Why were you so drawn to serving the veteran community?
Well, when I came back, and I hope I don't, I'm trying to maintain my composure while I say this. My sons noticed that I was broken. They said, Mommy, you've changed when I came back from Iraq. I think I harbored a lot of anger, just a lot of symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder. I found myself under the table one day, kitchen table, when I heard a helicopter flying near my house to a local hospital. And I thought we were being attacked and forgot I was back in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And so I was mirroring what we did when we were in Iraq. When we heard incoming, we had to take cover, whether it's under a patient's bed or whatever, put on a helmet and all. And I just mirrored what happened there.
And this was after just 1 year serving in Iraq?
I served 4.5 months. So that was just a short stint, but we were there during a lot of action when it was busy early on during the fights. So we saw a lot of combat casualties.
Okay. And your sons, you said, noticed this difference?
Yes, my sons asked, why am I so angry? They noticed a change in my behavior when I returned.
And why do you think you were angry?
I think I was angry over the whole situation of the war, what was going on, and seeing so many casualties. I mean, we airlifted thousands of soldiers and Marines and what have you. I didn't notice I was angry. I thought I was fine. I didn't see it in me, but it took, especially my oldest son, saying, what's wrong with you? And knew that I needed to check myself and get it together.
You answered one of my follow-up questions, which was whether military health personnel experience or face post-traumatic stress disorder. So who takes care of those who are supposed to be caring for the psychiatric mental health of the actual fighters, the soldiers? Who takes care of you guys?
Well, if we're not in the military, then it's the VA. It's one of the biggest healthcare systems utilized by veterans. And if it's while we're active duty, they do have mental health services quite extensive in the military. The problem is a lot of times soldiers, airmen, Marines, they fear going to seek mental health care because of the stigma of being labeled as crazy or something's wrong with you, and it can affect their career. That's a problem.
And how did you deal with your PTSD?
Oh, I had friends that guided me along the way and that remained close. And I'm one of the people I can say that dealt with it, and I'm a better person for it. I thrust myself into dance classes. I took an African dance class. I took this and that. So I got involved with fun things in the community. And so that's how I dealt with it. And I joined organizations, veteran organizations that support veterans with PTSD. And we go out and we help the community, help during storms, shelter rebuilding. I took suicide prevention training with them in New Mexico. They paid for me to go, and I learned how to ask that question, are you suicidal? Instead of beating around the bush with veterans who may be considering killing themselves. And I won't say committing suicide, but making a choice of suicide rather than staying alive.
And how would you describe the quality of care, of psychiatric and mental health care that is available for those who do go and seek it?
Personally, I find it to be inconvenient for a lot of veterans. And so veterans may start at the VA by going, but a lot of them do not finish the treatment at the VA. They stop going. One is they have to deal with parking, inadequate parking, sometimes the bureaucracy, and a lot of times just, oh, I'm fine, feeling like I'm fine and I don't need it anymore.
Right.
And then others don't want to be involved with groups. They don't want to sit with groups. I see a lot of Vietnam veterans now going to groups to help themselves from their PTSD, but not as many young individuals getting out the military.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, April, and we'll take a short little break here. You are listening to Mental Health Trailblazers, Psychiatric Nurses Speak Up, brought to you by the SAMHSA Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association. The stigma about mental health or substance abuse issues is particularly prevalent in underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. One way to overcome that stigma is to recruit more nurses from all underrepresented communities into these fields, so that they can focus on eliminating stigma about mental illness and substance use through their leadership in research, practice, education, and policy development. Receiving treatment from someone with a similar background builds trust that can lead to better outcomes. The SAMHSA Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association is actively engaged in identifying and supporting nursing students seeking graduate degrees in psychiatric mental health nursing. Visit emfb.org to learn more. Welcome back, April. So continuing our discussion regarding your career, could you tell me why you left the military and what you've been doing since then?
Oh, why I left the military. Good question. Well, I left the military for several reasons. One is to spend more time with my sons. They were in middle school, and I needed to spend more one-on-one time with them. And one of the main reasons is to start settling down. I did 20 years of traveling and doing what I wanted to do. I accomplished my mission in the military.
Since you left the military, what have you been doing?
Well, I've done quite a few things. I got my master's immediately after retiring from the military, got my master's as a clinical nurse leader here at University of the Incarnate Word, and I ended up teaching there for 8 years. So I've been a nurse educator for the past 8 years.
Now you are also pursuing another degree. You are pursuing your PhD with a focus on psychiatric mental health nursing.
Yes.
And why did you decide to do that?
Well, specifically, I'm focused on psychiatric mental health within the Black female veteran community. So I decided to focus on that cohort because, first of all, I'm a Black female veteran, and I wanted to learn their experiences, how they adapt to being back from Iraq. And so I'm focused on, what are their experiences? What are their lived experiences after returning home from Iraq?
And how would you characterize their lived experiences? I mean, just generalizing, how are Black female Iraq veterans doing?
Interestingly, I did a survey among some of my friends that are retired colonels, retired majors such as myself, and I did a survey to see if it was worth doing a study. And I found out it was when one of my study respondents said she still hasn't adapted to being back home after returning in 2005. She's still having a hard time. So from that one response, I knew it was worth it. And I have had Black female Navy sailors and all, Navy officers pulled me to the side saying, please do this study, and telling me stories of their military sexual trauma and things that they were subjected to that made me say, I have to get this done. I have to do this study.
Wow, that's pretty heavy, April. How big of a population are we talking about? Like how many people, how many Black female veterans do we have in the United States? And who is at this point, helping or trying to support them as they go through their transition back to civilian life or back to life in the United States?
Well, I can say overall, we have an increased amount of females joining the military to this day. So I would say approximately 20% of the military, close to it, are female veterans. Out of that 20%, I would say less than half are Black females. So we still occupy a significant portion of the military, but not as much as our Caucasian females. But it is rising with females in general in the military.
And do you think that the experiences of females of color in the military is different from Caucasian females?
From the literature, some of the literature I've been reading that have done studies on Black female veterans, first of all, there aren't many studies out there. And that's why I need to do this study. There aren't many. There's a gap in research on Black female veterans. Even getting my school to help me with the search, the librarian was surprised to see, how why am I only seeing, this number of studies or very little studies done. Well, I can talk to you about what I've read on some of the studies, which was appalling to see how some female veterans were being treated, especially in the enlisted rank, particularly in the Army, calling them slave names and dropping them when they're supposed to do certain carries and just degrading behavior and it's horrible. Some of the qualitative studies where female veterans were asked questions about their treatment and to see how they were treated and why they got out the military was appalling. And also seeing that they were not listened to by their commanders. In fact, we had a Hispanic female here in Texas that died within the last couple of years. She reported her abuser, someone that was her supervisor, how he was treating her and all, and later he killed her. And now there's a bill that was passed in Congress with her name on it. To her family would not let her name go away. They demanded justice, and they got the justice they demanded. So.
Did you yourself experience any discrimination or any untoward behavior?
I did. One in particular, one experience was when I was working on a surgical unit, and I heard some Caucasian females whispering that I didn't know she was Black, and she doesn't look Black. And they were talking about a patient of theirs. Of course, they didn't know I could hear them. So it doesn't take much to feel uneasy and feel like you're other than or less than when you hear some of these conversations or excluded from different gatherings or what have you. But for overall, I didn't experience a whole lot of that in the Air Force.
Yeah, but and I can imagine when something like that happens, especially when you're outside your country, you're away from your family, your community, in a war zone, it must have a more pronounced impact on you, especially as you're putting your life on the line.
Yeah, well, that actually happened in Texas. There was, in the South. Coming from the North and living in the South, I experienced a lot of discrimination that I wasn't used to.
So you mean at the base where you were stationed in the U.S.?
Yes, at the base where I was stationed, or or going to a gathering with my fellow nurses and having someone say, "Oh, we didn't know where you were. We thought the Ku Klux Klan got you,"
Oh,
something like that. Those kind of digs, it's not funny to me.
yeah, absolutely. When you're, it might seem like a joke to somebody else, but when you and your community have been targets, it definitely isn't. Well, talking about Texas and violence in general, gun violence, unfortunately, has not been confined to U.S. military engagements overseas. And the past few weeks, we've seen this come up again. The most recent being the school shootings in Texas. As a psychiatric mental health professional who has served in war zones, what are your reactions to these shootings stateside? I mean, what do you see as the gravest impact on the mental health of communities of color when race and ethnicity are also part of the factors that drive these incidents?
Yeah, when I saw the Uvalde shooting, the recent ones, and the mass shooting in Buffalo, we can't forget what happened in Buffalo.
Absolutely.
In fact, one of my friends, her mother was leaving that same grocery store 20 minutes before the mass shooting. With the Uvalde shooting, it was gut wrenching for me to see what happened and to see that we're still advocating these AR-15s, these assault rifles, and nothing is being done to really curtail all of these guns. I have neighbors that have all kinds of arsenal in their house, so I learned to live with that. In fact, I have a sniper across the street from me, a Marine sniper. It's part of the DNA here.
Do you have a gun?
No, I have a rubber hammer. that's, that's as far as and I reminded my sniper, that's what I have. So he keeps an eye out for me, so I don't need a gun. As a mental health nurse, like I said, I was appalled and I felt like I needed to be there to do something to help the parents and what have you. Because those children look like the kids I taught in Sunday school, the Hispanic kids I taught here for the last 2 years in Sunday school. They look just like them. And Texas is hurting right now, especially seeing the news of how the policemen didn't go in as soon as they should have. And so like I said, it's a lot. And I just felt like I needed to be there. There was a call for action for mental health nurses, mental health professionals to come. And I called to see where I would be needed. And it seems like it was being taken care of, either through hotlines or other professional organizations being there to help the victims and the family members and the community.
Well, let's just pray that this cycle will break at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there.
It is.
Yeah. And we will be right back. You are listening to Season 2 of Mental Health Trailblazers Psychiatric Nurses Speak Up, showcasing the inspiring journeys of emerging nurse scientists addressing the unmet substance use, psychiatric mental health challenges facing marginalized communities in America today. The SAMHSA Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association is a federally funded program granting fellowship awards to nurses of all underrepresented racial and ethnic groups who are pursuing either a master's or a doctoral degree in psychiatric mental health nursing. To learn more about this program and how to apply, visit emfp.org. Welcome back, April. And changing things up just a little bit, I have a few questions for you for which I'd like tweet-sized soundbite responses to. So starting it off, if you could tell me who your nursing hero is and why.
Well, my nursing hero is my mother.
Okay.
My mother, I got to see her go to work at night. She couldn't work during the day because she had little kids. And my father worked during the day as well. So I got to see her in a crisp white uniform, white stockings and white shoes. Everything was crisp. Go to work at night at different hospitals, and so she was my role model, especially because she was a parent of so many kids, but she still got her degree. She's my hero.
Yes, absolutely, and that's impressive. Raising a successful family of 10 children and managing to have a professional career, that is definitely hero material. And name one thing that you didn't know about yourself that you discovered while deployed in Iraq.
I discovered that I had grit that I didn't know I had.
And tell me, what was the most like positive thing that you took away from that experience from Iraq?
The most positive thing I took from Iraq of how cohesive we can all be as medics. We all were as medics. We all went there, we accomplished our mission without whining or complaining, and we all returned together.
And any favorite memories or experiences with the people of Iraq?
Several favorite experiences, but I have to mention Muhammad. He was a young kid that was severely injured, especially his skull, when he was affected by a market bomb. And so I became very close to Muhammad, and he was my patient that I would take care of from beginning to end. Even though I was over certain units, I always checked on Muhammad. And when he was discharged months later, after many reconstructive surgeries, luckily we had two pediatric neurosurgeons there. And they knew how close I was to Muhammad. And when he came back to an outpatient appointment, they came and got me. And he brought me a Christmas gift that said, Merry Christmas, CHRAS, and called me Madame. And I just broke down crying. So that I write about Muhammad too in my journal because we became close.
You were a major in the U.S. Air Force, and you just told us that you commanded one of the flights. So I have to ask this: what is your favorite plane?
My favorite plane is the F-16. I love the afterburner that comes out of the F-16. I was stationed in a remote area of Korea, and that was a F-16 unit there. And so I just love seeing those planes take off.
What was your favorite TV show growing up?
My favorite TV show, well, so many of them. Good Times and Little Rascals are two of my favorite TV shows growing up.
What did you think of MASH?
Oh, I enjoyed MASH too. Yeah, MASH. I really enjoyed it better after I was in the military and got to see some similar experiences because we did work with MASH units.
Okay.
And set up MASH units. So I got to appreciate MASH even more so after being in the military.
To wrap this section up, any words of advice for nurses of color who are considering careers in the military?
Oh, who are considering? I would say do it.
Okay.
I would say don't look back. I say do it. The experience I received in the military, I can't imagine receiving as a civilian nurse. I mean, all the training, all the conferences I was able to attend, and even being sent to Singapore to help teach health and wellness to Navy families there. I mean, I'm like, who gets that opportunity to travel and experience other cultures while being paid
Absolutely.
at the same time?
Yep. Sounds good. Actually, I have one more question for this series. As a follow-up to our discussion earlier about your journal and the book that you published, I imagine there are quite a few really strong anecdotes and powerful moments within this journal. If a movie were to be made of your life as a nurse in the military, which actor would you choose to play you?
Which actor would I choose to play me? That's a great question. Off the top of my head, of course, I would say Holly Berry.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, why not let Halle Berry play
Absolutely.
me?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And with Halle Berry, we will wrap up this section and be right back. Who do you trust with your most personal information, your personal health situation? Research suggests that it's someone who looks, sounds, and has some of the same lived experiences as you. That's why people with mental health and/or substance use issues often look for health professionals that look like them. We know that, and we want to help. If you're a nursing student from any underrepresented racial or ethnic group interested in pursuing a graduate nursing degree in psychiatric mental health nursing, apply to the SAMHSA Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association. Visit emfp.org for more information about the program. So welcome back, April. And I, at this point, want to go into your experience with the Minority Fellowship Program. So you are currently a PhD fellow with the Minority Fellowship Program. If you could tell me, how did you learn about the MFP?
Well, I learned about the MFP program, surprisingly, when I went to a conference, an American Psychiatric Nurses Association conference, APNA is what we call it, conference. And I believe it was the Columbus, Ohio conference in 2018. And that's when I learned about the program, and I decided I qualify for this and I need to apply. And that's when I applied and was accepted as a member of the MFP program.
And how has your experience been? What has been the best part of being a fellow in the Minority Fellowship Program?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's many of us out here that are mental health nurses in society as a whole. And so the networking within the MFP program has been great. Networking with other like-minded individuals who care about mental health in the community and mental health nursing overall. So the networking and being assigned a mentor in the field has been wonderful. I mean, I really connected with my mentor, and we talk like we've known each other all of our lives, even though she's in Miami and I'm in Texas, but we have a great connection, and I can email her about anything, ask any questions, and she'll call me and we'll talk, and we know each other's family. I know what she's gone through with her family and any heartaches and pain. And so I don't think I would have gotten that unless, being a member of the MFP program. So it's been a rewarding experience.
And is there anything more that you would like to see from the program?
Anything more? I would encourage the MFP program to infiltrate HBCUs and to encourage nurses in HBCU programs to be a member of MFP, to consider becoming a mental health nurse, because you can get them straight from nursing school and then, groom them until they become DNPs or PhDs or what have you. So that happened to me in high school. The FBI came to my high school to recruit us, and a Tuskegee nursing program interviewed me when I was in high school. I was accepted into their nursing program. Although I stayed in Baltimore to go to Coppin, my mother didn't want me to go far away, so that's why I didn't go. But to help mold them when they're young into this and let them know, hey, this is available to you. So that's what I would encourage the MFP program.
And what's next for you in terms of your career as a psychiatric mental health nurse?
Well, I'll be joining a neuroscience behavior health team at National Institute of Health soon. And so I'll be joining that program, and one of the stakeholders asked if I could help mold or guide some of the young nurses who haven't been in psychiatric nursing very long. I have a long history, over 25 years of of doing mental health nursing. So I immediately said, I can do that.
Okay. And looking back now, April, just to wrap up this conversation, when you think back to your childhood in Baltimore, growing up, in a family of 10 children, all the things that you've experienced and where you are today, and the things that are coming up in your immediate future, what are your thoughts in terms of your achievements and what you've been able to accomplish?
Well, I'm always reminded by my older brothers and sisters of how proud they are of me. So, and several friends. But as a Christian, I feel blessed because it could have been the other way around, because I did grow up near, I did see a lot of drug abuse around the college that I attended. In particular, I was exposed to seeing heroin addicts, in the streets and what have you. And I was exposed to treating heroin addicts, which was great experience for me. And that's why I like the field of mental health and addictions.
Yes, absolutely. And very, very successful. I'm really impressed by all that you've been able to accomplish. And so one final question regarding your PhD dissertation subject and your research there. What do you hope to do with it once you're done with your research? And what do you hope to accomplish for Black female veterans?
That's a great question. What I hope to do is to get the word out, to spread the news at conferences, at research panels, and what have you. And I've already started doing that by volunteering to be on a panel discussing female veterans. Started that even at Texas A&M, which doesn't have a large Black community as far as students are concerned. But to spread the news that we're out there, that we serve in a battlefield, that we may come back whole or may come back broken, but we're human beings. We're citizens of this country, and we deserve the respect and treatment and everything else that our sister service members who are non-minorities receive.
And specifically, what do you think needs to be done for Black female veterans? What are they not getting right now that they should be?
One of the things I found that they're not getting is, first of all, to ask females that they see even in non-veteran communities, are they a veteran? That question needs to be asked. Oftentimes it's asked to males, but not to females. And then to ask the very direct questions, how are you doing? What are you experiencing? They could be treating a female veteran who's homeless or who are on drugs or who has PTSD, but to take the time to ask those questions.
Right.
Especially to our minority veterans as well. It's quite a few of our sister veterans out here who are homeless, and I've witnessed that. And I feel like it's a shame. It's a shame for any veteran to be homeless. They need to take the time to ask the questions and to recommend community resources to veterans that are having a hard time.
Well, thank you very much, April. It's been really wonderful talking to you and hearing about all of your experiences.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful talking to you.
And that does it for this episode of Mental Health Trailblazers, Psychiatric Nurses Speak Up. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion, and I look forward to you joining us on future episodes. This is the Minority Fellowship Program at the American Nurses Association podcast, featuring nurse scientists addressing the psychiatric and mental health issues affecting underrepresented communities across America. You can always find us online at emfp.org and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The views expressed by the speakers and host do not necessarily reflect the official policies of the Department of Health and Human Services, nor does mention of trade names, commercial practices, or organizations imply endorsement by the U.S. government.